All right, good evening and welcome to another one of my streams. So tonight, simply, if you've looked at the title of the stream, you'd get the idea, of course, that this is preparation for the McLaren Shadow Project, which is a McLaren initiative um, running in multiple racing sims. So they've run a few different ones already this year. I think in Project Cars 2, in R Factor 2, and they're starting the Assetto Corsa Competizione one tomorrow. Now, previous to the SRO Esport Silver qualifiers, where the top 12 drivers were taken for the final event in the different circuits. This one's going to be a lot trickier simply because they're only taking the fastest guy. So the top guy of the leaderboard at the end of the week. So the competition will run for starting tomorrow for a week. So I guess it'll end Sunday then next week. So the fastest guy from that will qualify for the final in the McLaren Technology Center, which just to visit that would be just amazing to simply see all the, to be at the McLaren headquarters, the McLaren Formula One team's headquarters. So that'll be pretty special. So, hopefully can get there. It's going to be tough to get there. And then managing my studies along with the competition will be a little bit tricky, but hopefully I can balance the two over the week well. So studies, of course, it's very important, but we'll try and see if we can shoehorn this at the same time. So I figured with the competition starting tomorrow, there's some information that's out there already about sort of rules and track conditions, things like that. So I do know that it starts at 6, the actual special event that will run tomorrow starts at 6 p.m. in game time at Silverstone. Setups are locked, so you have to use either the aggressive preset or the safe preset setups. So that's unfortunate, but we just have to make the best of it. It's the same for everyone. So just try to figure how we can, if the setup doesn't work comfortably to me, how can I change my driving to make it work for me, as well as kind of just a few minor changes here and there when it comes to brake bias, traction control settings, ABS settings, and then even maybe engine map. So not a lot of people maybe consider that part, but engine mapping settings can also help a little bit with the driving, particularly with throttle application. So what kind of throttle maps are used. And actually, before I forget, I'm just going to pop the ECU map settings just for handy reference for me to look at. So I think with the McLaren 7, so yeah, we're running the McLaren 720S GT3, which is thankfully a lot more competitive than the 650S was previously. So, yeah, there's 12 different ECU maps. We'll probably really only focus on 4 or 5 of those, really, maybe even less, maybe even only 3. But we'll start off with that. Anyway, so we'll get to it. So hopefully I'll just check my settings, sound, and yeah, okay. You can obviously see ACC there loaded up. I'm in the car at the track. And I also have a telemetry logger set up. Start up the engine. So hopefully it's tricky trying to find that sound balancing. Still haven't perfected it, but hopefully we'll be able to hear me over the engine and vice versa. So let's get going. So, come on in the pits. This is of course the old pit lane. Formula One uses the other pit lane. So it's nice. We go straight into one of the best parts, if not the best part of the circuit, which is Maggots and Beckett's. Yeah, so one thing that's a bit of a struggle I found with the McLaren, let's see, maybe so you can see my steering input if you like. Was the, or I found this problem as well, the 650S, which is that the nose tends to dive a little under braking. So you get a lot of positive front end downforce, and makes the car do that exactly. So it starts to slide quite a bit. Come now to the newer part of the circuit. To Abbey Corner. Don't really know the name of these corners. I think one of these is called Farm. This one's Farm. I'm not sure. Break here. So it's a shame actually that they've changed the circuit so much. There's the last part of the older circuit, which ran probably from maybe the late 90s through late 2000s. Had Priory Bridge, and all those corners were just amazing. The Abbey Chicane, which was previously the Abbey Corner, which was much more nuts, so a lot faster. But yeah. So now we'll go on our first flyer. Just see how we get on. So I have the qualifying display on. It's kind of irrelevant at this point. Whoa, hit one of the inside sausage curbs there. So traction control at the moment is set at 3. I'll likely dial that down to 1 or 2. So I know personally I've always gone a little bit quicker with less aggressive electronics. I know that the logic's been updated since a couple of last updates in ACC, but still a bit more. I like my feet to be my traction control and ABS basically, so try to brake and accelerate smoother. And if you can really master the car with lower settings, you get much better performance, so much better lap times. I just tried lifting here for Abbey. Yeah, that kind of works. Right here. Oh, braked a little too late. Missed the inside curb there on the right. This hairpin, a little bit awkward. Good exit. There we go. Third, fourth. 5th. I'm not sure if it's worth going up to 6th here, really. Now we'll be going back to the old part of the circuit, so Luffield 1, Luffield 2. Down to the start finish. So this will be what, a 158 maybe? 159? 159. So, as I previously mentioned, yeah, the Delta's going way green because of that clip with the sausage curb. Still have that kind of problem where the nose dives under braking. So there's a few ways to go around that problem. So I'll try a few different ones, but you see as well. Oh, so brake bias forward can maybe lessen the ABS a little. Couple of things we can do. Traction control settings, ECU maps don't really influence that behavior. At the same time, don't have too much or not enough ABS that you're locking the front inside wheel going into corners. and just trying to find that perfect balance. So this will be a 158. Of course, this is the 2019 version of Silverstone, so it's going to be a little bit slower in pace compared to the previous circuit, last year's circuit. It was something that was noted by Aris in an interview he did with Race Department. Aris being the vehicle dynamics developer at Kunos for ACC. He mentioned that the grip levels for the 2019 version of Silverstone is a little bit less, so lap times will be slower. So really, aside from this nosedive problem that I'm getting a bit with the McLaren, feels okay, kind of mid-corner to exit really. It's going to be tricky. Of course, yeah, aside from changing settings, just braking as late as possible and going really fast into corners to sort of cause the front end to naturally understeer could help resolve that problem in some way. It's still tricky. Keeping a little bit of throttle, sort of left foot braking, which racing drivers do all the time anyway, but it's basically the idea that you keep a little bit of throttle while you're braking to stop the front end from the nose from diving down. So we'll try that approach actually, see how we can improve lap time, maybe make the nose dive transition a bit smoother, gradual. So yeah, that definitely helped a little bit through Maggots and Beckett's as well as Copse, which was turn 1. Look at our tires. So understandably, that rear left is cooking a little. A little bit better. So after this lap, I'm gonna have a look at telemetry actually. Try and get some idea what the car is going on with the car. Lost a bit of time there in those last 2 corners. Will be a better time, but so we'll have a gander at telemetry. So if we go just quickly back to the pits anyway, look at the tires. So yeah, that rear left's getting hot. It doesn't look hot there, but I could, at one point in the lap, it was reaching 96 degrees, which is quite hot. Obviously, the optimal temperature for these tires is 70 to 90. I believe. And then the pressures actually overall seem a little bit on the low side. Can't change that. Can't change anything with the setup except for the electronics because of the competition. But even when I look at the tire wear here, that rear left is a little bit more worn than the front left, and the other, especially the rear right. Compare the rear left with the rear right, there's a big variance there. And even though we only have a gap of 1 with the bump stop, it feels that the nose just goes, just really dives under braking. And the preload there is a bit lower than I would like. So yeah, just have to adapt around the car a little bit. So it's going to be a bit trickier that way. Just out of curiosity, I will look at the safe preset. So it obviously has a lot more aggressive traction control settings. Oh, and the front suspension's even softer, is it? Oh, well, it's, yeah, the suspension is, what, a click softer. A few clicks softer at the rear, and a click softer at the front, and softer front bump stops. Front roll bar is a lot softer, I think. Yeah, it's a lot softer between the two setups. Aero, it's likely to be a bit more aero on the safe preset as well. And that front variation, so it's 7.8% at the moment. Just kind of nuts, really, when, thinking about the numbers you usually see for the other cars. It's usually not very much. It's either a little and then slightly in the negative or a little bit in the positive. But the 720S is like 7.5%. It's just nuts. There's a lot of front aero there. Just have a look at the safe. So yeah, you can just already see. Just look at that. Just over 0.5%. That's a considerable difference in aero balance between the two. That's mainly probably with the much lower front end of the car. But I'm going to just save this as well. So we'll try the safe, we'll try the aggressive. Likely to stay with the aggressive, but yeah. Just might go back and see what the safe's about as well. And if we have a look at our Motec graphs and numbers, numbers and graphs. That's what Motec is. So if you want to go really quick, if you want to iron out setup problems or even analyze driving inputs, Motec is the way to go. So apologies for the slight delay in getting this going. So a hard drive, for some reason it takes a while to load the telemetry files from ACC. So it might be worth moving my telemetry to a solid state drive or something, I don't know. But my telemetry folder is like 4 gigabytes, which is quite a lot for telemetry data. Really, it's quite considerable. So if you imagine text files, that's what kind of telemetry files sort of are like. They're just like text files in a way. Considering text files are 100, 300 kilobytes maybe. It's quite a lot. So is this my last run here? Yeah, it is. So that's nice. I think I didn't have to restart the session, as far as I know. Yeah, I didn't restart the session. So that's a change from a previous version of ACC. That's a welcome change. That be able to, instead of having to restart the session, or I guess leave the server, you can just look at the telemetry straight away as soon as you go back to the pits. So that's very handy. So just looking at the numbers here, so you see, look at to give just some context, I suppose, the Lamborghini Huracan GT3, at least I can speak for last year's car. I haven't driven this year's car yet. The front travel for that is usually around 30 millimeters, maybe 35, maybe 40. The McLaren, it's at 44, 45 millimeters. So it doesn't seem very much. It's like what, yeah, 10 millimeters of difference. But trust me, you feel that. You feel that difference in the car. So it's a little bit tricky to, that's what I was talking about, sort of the nosedive problem. And the 650S actually had similar characteristics to what we're seeing with the 720 as well. So it's kind of quite unique in a way. You have to drive the car quite differently. And just have a look here at this graph. So this is where really sort of the changes would be relevant, which is my wheel speed graphs, because of the traction control. So traction control, it shouldn't really kick in that much coming out of turn one. It's a high cops, so it kicks in once there. Goes off again. ABS, and then going through. This is going through Maggots and Beckett's here. Let's see, can we view the track? That doesn't look like the track. Show values. Okay, generate. We want to generate a track. Generate track. Will this work? Nope. Just one moment, so I'd be able to have some better reference of what's going on. So this is I think the G lat, is it? Yeah. And we want the G long. So G for G-force. So this is a way to be able to generate the track. You probably can't see this dialog box. No, you cannot. But hopefully I'm doing it right. And there we go. So now you can see the track there in the bottom left. And if I go show track, toggle track, transparency. So actually let's try something here. I'm gonna make this way big. I'll show you something kind of cool. Let's make this way big. Something like that. Boom. There we go. So it's a bit weird to look at this way, but this is kind of a way to kind of visualize what's going on with the car. So we're going down the start-finish straight, braking for turn one, going to cops, and then we're coming into here, Maggots and Beckett's, and then we're going down the hanger straight. Not very much drama going on here, braking. So ABS isn't even kicking in, going to stow. And then the traction control is certainly kicking in as I'm applying the throttle coming out of it, which is expected. And obviously the ABS going into Veil here is really going, it's just really kicking in. So all this kind of information, and it's definitely will kick in a lot more coming out of Club. I think it's still called Club Corner, I'm not sure. ABS or the traction control is will naturally kick in more coming out of slower corners. And then we're going through Abbey, then the left kink after it, then braking into the hairpin. I think it's Farm, so ABS naturally kicking in a bit more, or kicking in there. Traction control kicking in, a bit more ABS, traction control, and then same for the last couple of corners. So yeah, so this is a way to be able to sort of visualize what's going on with the car. And the red dot you can see on the map itself is that's me going over the course of a lap. But yeah, generally actually I just, while you can see the track map, you can't actually see the track map. I thought you'd be able to, so apologies for that. So turn that off. You can see the track map there in the bottom right. I know you can definitely see that, so that can give you some idea of what's going on with the car. So on initial thoughts, just looking at this information, traction control is obviously kicking in quite a bit over the course of the lap. ABS only really in the hard braking zones like Vale, and the two hairpins near the end of the lap, and then the two Lovefields at the very end. So we're going to try a little bit less traction control. Now, what we can do with the ABS part, So like I said, there's kind of two different approaches with that, which is either, well, I can move the brake bias back so it won't really trigger the ABS, because it's mainly the fronts which are locking, not the rears. Or less ABS. So, but then you're kind of, like I said, if I actually get proper front wheel locking, then it's a problem. So we'll try the less ABS route, because like I said, I have that nosedive problem with the car, which more rearward brake bias might help alleviate a little bit, but might have to go like really far back as well. So I'm not sure if I want to do that, because it's like, basically, if you keep moving the brake bias back further and further back, it's like pulling a handbrake going into a corner. This isn't drifting. We're driving. We're going at high speeds, really high speeds. So you don't want to pull the handbrake at a very high speed. So, and if you didn't know that, you really should never do that. So it's just far too dangerous. So we'll dial the traction control back and the ABS back, see how the car reacts. Actually, just quickly, I'm just going to look, because yeah, like I said, the wheel speed graph can give some insight about what's going on with the individual wheel speeds. So okay. Anyway, I'll look into that a bit more as I go on. But yeah, so we'll go for another run, less traction control, less ABS, and see how that works. Less ABS, hopefully it won't intrude too much. It could potentially cause more, no, it wouldn't cause more oversteer. Well, in my experience, it would cause a bit more understeer. Because of getting that just letting the front wheels just free lock just a little bit more. Which sounds like a bad idea. In some cases, in very extreme cases, it is. But for overall drivability and balance, sometimes it's just that little bit better. This is where the lower traction control is either going to be okay or it's going to hurt. So far, seems okay. But we'll find out really on over the next hot lap or lap after it. Oh, brake too early, turn too early. This lap's going to be way off so far anyway. It's 0.7 down. So far it seems okay with the lower traction control and ABS. This is where, so there's a little bit more slip, but it's very controllable actually. Very, very manageable. At least for now. Oh. So you get the line wrong there through those two corners. It's very easy to go off on the left kink sort of afterward. And if anyone from Kunos is watching, it would be nice if you guys can enable, like in the first SRO event, just by default have the setups have telemetry logging, because it would be nice to have that for the actual event itself, kind of figure out what's going on with the car a little bit more. Because I assume that these conditions aren't exactly the ones that will be running for the competition. So, which can make a slight difference in different way the car behaves, particularly the way the tires act. Yeah, this would be a nice little thing to make sure to give us a bit more insight. So there, and I felt that load, understeer load there a bit going into Vale. Getting to that problem where the fronts are locking a little bit more. I have to just shift the brake bias a little bit further back with the lower ABS. Dial it back 1%. Doesn't seem much, but trust me, you can notice it. Especially if you're driving at the very limits. Whoa. And a little bit on the grass. That's not good. See how the car reacts going to Vale now. Yeah, that's a lot better. Messed that up. Oh. So now, I've done a few laps. That rear left is, yep, 97 degrees. It's almost boiling point. It's quite hot. Now, traction control settings seem to be struggling a little bit further now. Not really further, but just beginning to struggle yet. So there, that little sort of, as I was applying the throttle out of the last corner, That's not good. Brake bias forward a couple of clicks. That felt good through there. Another little twitch. So close to cracking into the 157. So close. Could have done it on the last lap if I didn't just make those couple of mistakes. But it'd be nice to get into those before done tonight. At some point. And of course have to do that on every single lap. The competition is gonna be quite fierce, of course. So. Yeah, so now that rear right's cooking, starting to feel it a bit more. Rear left, pardon. Right. So back to the pits. So, did go quicker, obviously, on that run. But the tricky thing is, as well, is that it's not about being really quick over one lap as well. It's also about being quick over a 10-minute stint. So if you're not going quick over a 10-minute stint, it's kind of a problem, right? So that's the goal. You want to have like just that sustained pace throughout the run. That's what I learned about from the SRO events that I participated in, so that like I can go really quick with certain settings over one lap or maybe 2 laps, but then the tires overheat or stuff starts going wrong, and then it's like, yeah, so it's just the car becomes really hard to control and balance properly. Just looking at this last run, so the trash control still kicking in, of course. It does need to kick in. Let's see the number. It's not as, compared to the. So this is the last one of the last runs, and this is. Or do it the other way, maybe. Yeah. So then you just see a lot more. So the white spikes is the more aggressive settings. So yeah, you just see a lot more of those, or green, if you like. But what tells the biggest story as well is the wheel speeds at the top. So the wheel speeds will naturally be a little bit more off with lower settings, because the electronics aren't really helping managing the car properly. And yeah, so if I look, I want to have a look here, going into particularly Vale, which is where this is happening. So just zoom up a little here. We're getting that front locking going into Vale. Yeah, that's a downward spike. That's actually with further back brake bias. Yeah, so there's a little bit of front left locking as soon as I start basically starting to apply the brakes. And compare that to one of the last runs. Kind of the same, actually. But it's a bit more pronounced for sure, with less ABS. A little bit more pronounced, not much, but it's definitely there. So, now, what I'm thinking as well, I was mentioning about ECU maps. So, with a more, considering that Silverstone is a high downforce circuit, having less power doesn't necessarily mean going slower. It can also mean that you're going just as quick, or maybe over a long stint you're going faster because you're not having as much power going to the rear wheels. Where if you ran more power, more traction control, you'd go slower because of traction control intrusion. So, yeah. So there's a different sort of approach, really. So let's see. So qualifying is ECU map 1, fastest, aggressive throttle map. Yes, it is. High fuel consumption. Race, or the ECU map 2, bit slower, linear throttle map. And then race 3 is progressive. So we'll try 2. Or should I go with 3? Let's have a look at this last run. We'll try 2 initially, and then move on from there. If 2 doesn't solve that problem with the rear left, then we'll have to go up to 3. And then if 3 doesn't work, then we go back up, go down, or go up to 1 again for maximum power, but maybe a more intrusive traction control setting. And move the brake bias back a few clicks. So we'll say 56.6. And see how this goes. Throttle response isn't going to be as sharp as it was previously, but still might be a bit quicker. Just always just sort of evaluating how the car is feeling. Different settings from run to run. Trying to just figure out a little bit what would be the next best way to get the car to perform well. Just grip, go fast, no drama. That's basically it. basically little drama, because it's when you're going really fast, it's hard not to have a lively car. At least in my situation, with my driving style, sometimes the car is quite lively. But at the same time, if it's too lively, then you're going slow. So. The delta's going down and down, understandably going down the hangar straight. Here is not going to matter as much. It's actually going up. There's a weird bit of oversteer that happens going into Vale there, the exit of Vale for me. Figure that one out a bit more. Whoa! Don't know how I caught that one, but that wasn't comfortable. Just clipped the inside sausage curve there on that left kink. Just went nuts. Obviously at that speed would go nuts. Too quick, a bit too fast. I was just kind of hoping as I was going through there, it's like I lifted for the second part of Maggots. I was carrying a lot more speed than normal. Actually, if I just maybe calmed it down a bit as I was going through the first part of Beckett's, might have been a lot quicker that way actually. Yeah, this is good to know. Sort of the delta isn't really going way down with the lower power. So this might actually work out okay. Try again. Slow down a bit more for the first part of Beckett's. Oh, the line was all wrong. We're alright, we're okay. Definitely lost a bit of time with that. A little bit. bit scruffy over the last couple of corners there. Would have been quicker. Definitely could have gotten at least 2 157s in that run. At least 2. Just mucked it up one way or another. So we'll try ECU map 3 and then kind of evaluate everything. So lap time wise, just have a quick look here at the lap times over that last run compared to the previous. So in that last run, even though I was running a lower map, I got a personal best second sector. And then when I look at the other sector times, 2/10. So it's mainly the last sector. There's a bit of time lost. I'm trying to think, last sector. Where does that happen? Where does it start, rather? Probably around... probably around the new part of the track. Sort of the last few set of corners. That's probably where Sector 3 kind of happens. Considering there's a long straight, sort of semi-long straight, leading up to Luffield 1. Although, considering there's hanger straights long, so not really much to tell from that. But yeah, so kind of the first 2 sectors are roughly the same with the same maps. Or the same as the ECU map of 1. But yeah, so we'll try 3. 3 is probably gonna be too slow. Oh, tires frosty. There we go. Throttle response is going to be a little bit lazier again. So the power should be the same as ECU map 2, but just should be the throttle should be a little lazier. So when I go full throttle, it's a little bit more progressive in the way the car processes it. So in a way, you can imagine it like the lazy man's throttle modulation. So I just go bam on the throttle, and the ECU just says, "Oh no, you know, fly smoothly," you know. So it's, I suppose, in an endurance race, you know, or it's kind of handy to have. That way the driver just takes less effort from the driver to modulate the throttle. So that kind of still performs relatively okay, but this will probably be too slow over a 10-minute run. So see anyway. The ultimate judge always is lap time. So drivers can sometimes tell this feels slower or quicker, and sometimes can be right, but really the ultimate true judge is sort of lap time, really. So and interestingly, now notice, is this my night light kicking in? It might be my night light kicking in because I can see an orange, slightly orange hue on my screen. So go out, disable that. Just need laser-like focus to drive properly here. I would probably go a little bit quicker if I wasn't talking so much as well. I like to educate. I don't like just mindlessly gaming or driving, staying quiet, and then people don't really learn anything. So I'm the sort of person who likes to make use of his time in every way. It's obviously good to have a bit of fun and silliness sometimes, but in this kind of very technical approach, sim racing can be very technical. It's quite boring, I suppose. I can see how it could be quite boring for some people. It's just like going round, lap after lap, lap after lap. So, and obviously I'm driving on my own as well, so as though I'm not racing with other cars or other players or whatever. So, but I will actually try experimenting with that soon. So if you're a follower of my streams previously, you may have noticed that since my last stream, not this one, but just the one before it, there's been a bump up in quality. So I am properly streaming in HD now, as opposed to 720, I think it was, or maybe even 480 at some points. So there's a lot crisper quality now. Streams look nicer. And so next test will be to see if I can race online. My connection is stable and quick enough to do both. It should be nice. That way it'll be a little bit more interesting than just going lap after lap. Oh, Dorifto. Yeah, see, it looks stylish. You look at the delta though, 0.49 down. Looks good, but doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything at all. Another Dorifto, a little bit more subtle. let's drive properly now. So we need to figure out if this is actually a viable map. Low speed oversteer is a problem. Really is a problem. Alright, it's viable. It's obviously viable. I need to turn off this night light. There we go. We'll see, man. We'll see tomorrow and for the upcoming week how things play out. So there's gonna be some very quick guys doing this. So go have a quick look at our graphs and numbers and all that jazz. Turn on the Motec. And see how badly we drove on that last run. Come on, come on. Yeah, I think I need a faster hard drive. Or alternatively put my telemetry on. Yeah, that's what I should just do. Too much telemetry. 4 gigabytes of telemetry is too much. But yeah, we could see, yeah, I could just see already just from that last run, because the throttle was a little bit lazier. Traction control isn't really kicking in as much as it needs to anymore. And looking at the wheel speeds, are they squiggly? Squiggle, squiggle, squiggle. Mainly coming out of the slower corners is where we'll notice the largest squiggly lines if there's a problem on the throttle. So I'm gonna do something here. So duplicate this worksheet. Turn off everything else. There we go. Now we can look at the stuff just more focused on the wheel speed. So the where it'll be most messy is definitely going through the last 2 hairpins, understandably. That's where it'll be most noisy, if you like, which is around this part of the lap here. So that's where we'll be able to sort of tell a bit more what's going on with the car. It's quite squiggly, quite noisy. Even with the higher traction control settings, it's still actually reasonably noisy, so it's not that different from running a more aggressive setting. Yeah, so in terms of the fronts, so see any sort of dips, that's a sign that getting some bad front wheel lock, or like considerable dips rather, not to say large, or any small dips is natural. But when you see these, like here for example, it's likely I had a big oversteer moment, so that's why there's just a big spike there in the rear right wheel. So yeah. So we'll try the last thing. The last thing, like I said, is to go with a more aggressive traction control setting, but with an ECU map of 1. Dial up the ABS, leave ABS as it is for now, and give this a try. Let's just change that to 2 on my wheel, 2 for that as well. Again with that low speed oversteer. So that might be 2 things. Either the brake bias is still too far back, which 57 is really as low as you should go, which is the default setting, or I just need to feather off the brake pedal a bit more gently than I am. So it's always kind of been a slight issue of my driving style. It's my braking. It's a little bit more digital, let's say, in application. Try to be a bit smoother with it. And I've really messed that up. Finally into the 57s after a bazillion tries. Really shouldn't have taken that long. Oh well. One thing I'd recommend, actually, it's always helped me. Just this is a pure driving thing, not setup or anything like that, but always one thing that I've always tried to focus on when I'm driving is judging corner by corner. And if I got a best lap, you know, still trying to understand, could I have gone quicker there or here, you know, to try just sort of evaluate, basically just evaluate my driving on every corner. And then make a mental note so I don't do it on the next lap and the lap after it as much as I can. So already you can see the delta is a lot better because I just ironed out those few corners that I got wrong. That's if there's anything I can advise anyone when it comes to driving, is just always trying to understand where did you lose time. Delta is a very good indicator for that in terms of your driving. Eventually, once you just iron out every single corner, you start to go really very quickly. Never lose sight of the fundamentals. Racing line, braking properly, smooth throttle application, all those things, very important. So for example, I know on that last lap, going through Club Corner, I hit the sausage curve, which is just coming up. This is Vale, and you go into Club, so the delta should hopefully go in the green. Don't clip the sausage curve this time. There we go, delta is starting to tumble down. Just a simple mistake like that. There, I can already judge. Well, missed the inside curve. Delta's gone down again. It's climbed up. A bit of oversteer in that left hairpin. Keep track of all these little things, and then remember it for the next lap. You know, that way, don't do them again, and then you go quicker. It's basically kind of the best analogy I can think of. It's like kind of sculpting, ice sculpting, or sculpting some sort of statue, like clay statue, or whatever you want to call it, stone. So you kind of just chisel all the little bits till you're left with a beautiful design. Pardon if that's a bit corny, but One more lap, we'll probably call it a day. One more after this one. It's always the way. One more after this one, and then yeah. First the rear left. Yep, that's cooking. Not too bad, but it's cooking. Alright. Clunk. No, no clunk. Okay. Let's have a watch. Was it 23? Which lap was it? Which lap was it was the quickest? 22. Okay. So I'll have a watch of that. And it sounds much better. The 720S sounds, I think, better. It doesn't sound all that different from the 650, but it does sound a little bit better, I think. Looks much nicer, I think. Much more smoother lines. You go left, then you go right, you go a bit slower, a bit left, you go a little bit slower and then right, and then you go left onto a long straight, and brake. One of the best corners, one of my favorite corners, that Stowe as well. Big fan of Silverstone, actually. The older part, so the newer part's not that bad, but the older part of the newer, where the new section is, was much better, I personally feel, so. Oh, wait, is that the... Oh, that's... Oh, man, I could have gone even... Yeah, totally messed up Abbey. So obviously could have gone quicker again. Damn it. Okay, never mind. It's always the way. Like I said, chisel. You're chiseling away at a statue or an ice sculpture or whatever. Just chisel. Just a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there. And it all comes together in the end. We're making cooking a fine dish or whatever, complicated dish. I don't really know cooking that much, so but think of something that's difficult to make, and that's what that's like. And there we go. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. So yeah, this was only a little bit of preparation. So I got an idea a little bit for different settings and things like that. But yeah, it's a little bit. So ECU map 1, that's probably the way to go. Actually, in the end, I thought 2 and 3 would have been all right, but really 1, I was a lot quicker with 1 there. Went at least 4/10 quicker, even with a more aggressive traction control setting, which with my SRO practice previously was the same. I don't know why I keep trying the same thing again and again. I guess sort of the McLaren, maybe I haven't driven it a lot, so maybe it's a little. So I'm just kind of hoping maybe it's a little bit different somehow. But in a race situation, of course, 2 or 3 tenths isn't so bad. But when you're trying to go for like just a blazing hot stint run of 10 minutes, you want to just nail it lap after lap, and you want maximum performance all the time. So map 1 is probably the best way to go. And then just have to figure out traction control, ABS, brake bias settings a bit more again. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. If you've never watched my stuff before, hope you enjoyed it. And I have a YouTube channel. I post content there, although I haven't posted content in a long time, but there's nicer, more fun stuff, let's say, kind of short bits here and there on my YouTube channel. I have a Patreon page, so if you enjoyed my stream and you want to support, would it be appreciated. We also have a Discord server that if you like sim racing, you like racing in Assetto Corsa Competizione, but we also actually race in the original Assetto Corsa. Haven't expanded too much to other sims yet, but because we don't know how to set them up simply, but R Factor 2 is meant to be awkward to set up. But anyway, we have that as well. So thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, onwards and upwards for tomorrow and hopefully the rest of the week with the actual competition. And yes, I'll be on Discord, Christian. So I'll just gonna take a quick break and then I'll join you guys on Discord. Anyway, for the rest of you, catch you next time. Bye bye.